State of the Sun Devils with Jeremy Schnell, Jesse Morrison, and Mitch Bareldes, an Arizona Sports podcast.
Hello and welcome into another edition of State of the Sun Devils alongside Jesse Morrison and Mitch Bareldes. I'm Jeremy Schnell. Well, guys, this will be the final men's basketball and women's basketball episode of this podcast because both teams lost in the Pac-12 tournament.
Both to Utah, right?
Yeah,
correct.
I didn't even realize that until you just said
how
that.
cruel of the Utes to put an end to both of the Devils' season. That wasn't cool.
Well,
I'll appreciate that.
The women stuck around a little bit more than the men in this game.
The men's game was over in pregame warmups.
Yeah. So the men's team lost 90-57. Frankie Collins had 22 points. Kamari Lance had 11. Those were the only two people in double figures for the Sun Devils, Mitch.
Look, to put it succinctly, this was a very poor offensive performance. And
shocking.
My first thought was, you guys remember this. We were all there. When they played Northwestern at Footprint Center earlier in the year and they scored 13 first half points, I said it was close to that bad, but it's not 13 points in the first half, but it was abysmal to watch offensively. It set them up so bad in the second half that we did the whole, they do really well in the second half and they come out with energy and they'll get on a run and fight their way back, but then they'll still lose and we're like, man, that second half was great. The second half wasn't even that great. They were both bad offensively. And defensively, there were so many lapses. I was wondering, where was the identity of this team? It left.
It left when Jose Perez left. That's my opinion.
Good segue.
Yes.
You want to get into that?
I do. I do want to get into that. The identity of the team left when Jose Perez left. And I don't think any of us know the full details there. But I have a hard time believing that he couldn't have told this professional team, hey, I got like 2 more weeks. And I think he totally let down his teammates.
Well, doesn't he already have a college degree? He's been in college for like 5 years, right?
He's a grad student, but
yeah.
I just feel like he totally let his teammates down. If you go and find the clip of Frankie Collins talking about him leaving, he just seems dejected about it. And Jose was the leading scorer in both of the Utah wins this season.
Yeah, that's right.
And, I feel like they came out flat after Jose left. And I know that it just must be a crushing feeling for perhaps your best offensive player to leave the team at the end of the season like this. It gave when he left, I just felt like there was zero chance for them to do anything. Not just because it dejects the team, but because he provided an offensive spark that this team desperately needed. And obviously without him, you saw, oh my goodness, they're that bad offensively. So just overall, a really, really disappointing season coming off of a great run to the tournament last year, getting past the first 4 into the round of 64.
We'll get there, Jesse. We're gonna get to the future of the program and to what this season means. But I want to start honestly with Frankie and what his next move may be, Jesse, because he's only a junior. He scored 22 points. He is the all-time leader in steals in Sun Devil history.
Set a single-season
record. Almost had he tied his record for most amount of steals in a single game at one point this season. In terms of his future, though, Jesse and Mitch, he did test out the draft waters last year for what may be a professional career for him in terms of whether it's G League or going pro. I think he has a good chance to do it. He can create his own shot. He's a good defender, and that's what professional teams are looking for. I don't know what's next for him in terms of whether he stays as a Sun Devil, transfers, or goes to the league.
Yeah, I mean, I could see him transferring. I could see everybody on this team with eligibility remaining transferring, because that is what we've seen, not everybody, but we've seen basically, like a 75 to 80% roster turnover over the years with this Bobby Hurley team. And so, I don't think have to graduate anymore to transfer a second time. So, Frankie wants to go somewhere else. He can go somewhere else, really compete for, a national championship or something like Remy Martin did. And so I wouldn't shock me at all if he ends up going to the transfer portal.
Mitch, in terms of him making this decision and talking through this with his family and people, advisors in his life, do you think being in the Big 12 next season for ASU helps ASU's case in keeping him around?
I mean, not if they play like this in the Big 12. The Big 12 is not going to be an easier conference to be in as far as basketball is concerned. Much, much harder. And we even got the benefit, and if you're looking at it from how well can ASU do in the conference this year? There was the benefit of a vastly weaker Pac-12 this year. Vastly weaker. We mentioned it, we had Washington State going on a run once the conference season took place. Arizona was Arizona, as to be expected. But there were 4 teams that finished above 500 in the conference this year. And the rest of it was at or below. So you're telling me that this team that had an opportunity to truly compete in a weaker conference couldn't. Many factors as to why. We're now expected to, they're going to be one of the top 4 teams in a conference that's much harder. Oh, and by the way, has 16 teams now instead of 12. I don't buy it. I worry about what Frankie is going to decide to do, because as we've mentioned it, how much leadership left when Jose left abruptly before the season ended. How much leadership is going to leave when Frankie decides to leave?
If he decides.
If. Sorry, not when. If.
Yes.
Leadership is a big aspect of trying to build a program up. And in this new age of college athletics, where a lot of things are decided by how much money somebody is going to give you, it truly matters establishing a program as best you can when you don't have the necessary funds to build it that way.
And Jesse, Mitch brings up a good point about leadership, because they have a lot of freshmen coming in next season. It's a good class from what we're being told about the rankings and stuff. I know
they have top 100 players coming in.
Yeah, and
somebody in the 40s, somebody in the 80s.
Yeah, and in terms of one of the sites has them ranked in the top 20 of all recruiting classes when it comes to freshmen in the country right now. So when you look at that, and you look at they have some guys that, were freshmen this year. Who knows if they're going to stay or transfer? They didn't get much playing time this year. There might not be a core group of guys that have been around to really create that leadership here. So what do you hope to see in terms of transfer portal, going out and possibly getting leaders if they do lose a lot of these guys?
They have to go and get guys who are going to fit what ASU wants, are people that are going to, if Bobby Hurley remains the coach here, that are going to vibe with Bobby, that and are, actually good players. Players that can make their free throws, players that can make their 3-pointers. They need
players that can make their 2-pointers. That would be nice too.
Yeah, exactly. But in the modern age, free throws and 3-pointers, was top of my list. So and then people that will vibe with Bobby's intensity, and not players that are going to have some issue with him, like we saw with DJ Horn, or I don't know if there was an issue between Bobby and Jose Perez.
Right. I thought that they had similar personalities.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby called him a warrior.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened there. I think he probably just made a decision to go play pro.
And he was just fed up with college.
Yeah.
Could be that.
Yeah. Could have been that. So I don't really know what's going on there. But they've got to find, and then they've got to find guys that are also just not going to worry about external factors like,
stats,
officiating and everything.
And stats.
Sure, yeah.
I want people that are really worried about their assist stats, guys.
Yeah.
Pass the ball, please.
Yeah, but Bobby's going to handle, obviously, we know that he is going to handle the, yelling at the refs, complaining about the calls and stuff. They need players that aren't going to do that. And I feel like they had some players that were also angry at the refs this year, cost them some moments in the season that were big moments. So that's what I would like to see. But again, I still think there's a lot up in the air about what is going to happen here, because this has just been a weird week news wise.
It's been a weird week. It's been a weird since the month of November. How about as far as weird going on with ASU when Ray Anderson decides that he is not wanting to take part in establishing Arizona State as a Big 12 school. He's looking at, respectfully, he's looking at himself and the next phase of his life, which is essentially retirement, the way he was talking about it in terms of why he stepped down. But we are now at the middle of March. And if you hadn't thought about the idea of, maybe this basketball program, maybe this football program, maybe recruiting cycle, et cetera,
baseball,
maybe all of this is off to a slow start, because with respect to Jim Rund, who's the interim right now, there's no leadership at the top right now. There is no one who can help establish what this university and what these athletic programs are going to be. And we are, 4 months away from a brand new conference, a brand new school year. And this university still doesn't have a leader in that position. Still.
Yeah. Where's the athletic director? I want to know where the athletic director is. I've been, looking under tables, behind bushes.
Is it someone that they're trying to convince to leave a certain... I don't know. The name Rocky Harris was brought up months ago, but he obviously has a fantastic position with the Olympics committee.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd leave that position.
Exactly.
To come to Arizona State, where...
If you believe in the article that was written a few weeks ago in terms of Michael Crow and
his letter to John Wilner of San Jose Mercury News.
So if you look at that, they're making changes to that particular position and that leadership group. So
and they can't do that while they have somebody in that position.
Or to Jesse's point, they would probably want someone in that position if they're going to make a restructuring change.
Yeah, just hire someone that you feel like fits this restructure, and then go from there. Because they don't have anybody to make decisions right now. Because, we've seen Crow be super apathetic towards sports, and I don't think he's going to make any drastic decisions or changes or anything, but they need to be better. And I am a huge proponent of they can be good in everything. You don't need to sacrifice the women's tennis program and the men's swimming program, which just won the Pac-12 championship. You can be great in those things and also be great in football, men's basketball, baseball. But they do need to look at the fact that those three sports in particular, and you can toss in women's basketball as well, have not been where they should be. And so, they need to act swiftly so that those programs going into this conference that is going to be a tough conference to compete in, are doing well. Because it's just what's going on.
Here's what I will say. If they go into the Big 12 next year and they stink, but they have a clearly established plan as to what is the structure of all of the big athletic programs. So, if they have a clear vision and we're getting the gist from Kenny Dillingham right now. If we have a seen and clear vision of what this football program is going to be, of what the men's basketball program is going to be, but they suck, I'm fine with it. As long as I'm aware that there is a plan in place, that there is a structure set, that there is an idea and a goal and something that this program and this university is determined to accomplish. I don't care if they suck for 2 years, just as long as they're clear about what they're trying to do. We don't have that clarity right now at all.
Here's what I'll say about Dr. Crow. In terms of knowing when to make the right decision, he usually does.
Usually.
With when it comes to the relieving of duties and mutually parting ways or whatever you want to call it with Herm.
A little delayed on that.
He got fired.
I think that was a little delayed.
He got fired. No, it
was
might
definitely a little delayed. He
but-
should have been fired after the 2021 season.
And it was mismanaged as well.
sure,
Correct.
but
Why did
they made that decision? I believe they didn't fire him because there's a possibility that Ray wanted to try and see it out because it was his friend.
Okay,
and I think
then why are you saying that the timing was good then?
here's what I'll say. For Crow, he allowed him to do that. Ray's no longer here, right? I think Crow made that decision after the Eastern Michigan game.
Yeah.
And he said, this is enough. Let's move on. And that's what they did. Now, with Bobby Hurley, it's a little overdue. I think it's time to move on. And I think you can even see with the stats in terms of offense, offensive efficiency, offensive rating. It's weird that the best point guard in college basketball history in terms of stats is struggling to run an offense. And if he does stay, there needs to be a big overhaul of this offense. This cannot go on for much longer. It's ridiculous at this point. It's been enough, and the offense needs to be overhauled because it cannot be dribble handoff, pick and roll with 10 seconds left on the shot clock, or iso ball, or chucking up threes that are contested. There are way too many contested shots in this offense, way too many inefficient shots in this offense in terms of what basketball analytics says you should do. I think that would say the total opposite of what ASU's offense is.
Yeah, a lot of times the offense is somebody has the ball and they charge to the basket with like no movement and that's it. I've seen that many, many times with this offense, and Bobby has been very patient with me as a reporter, as a question asker.
Professional question asker.
Yes, she's gotten mad at me
Again, this has
one time.
This has nothing to do with the person that Bobby Hurley is. He's been nothing but kind to us.
Yes.
He has given you, even with the tough questions that you ask, he's given you straight answers. And in terms of when things went wrong a few months ago in one of the games, and they got a bunch of technical fouls, and I think it was the UCLA game when they gave it away. He was mad when he went into the press conference, and he apologized to the reporters, said it wasn't their fault. He was just upset, and he's sorry that he was talking like that. So again, he's a good person.
Yes.
I can tell, but I think it is time for both sides to move on.
I mean, look, the big statistic has to be what Sun Devil Sources Chris Cartman put out there towards the end of the ASU-Utah game on Wednesday. I'm going to read it verbatim, and we can just react as it is. Bobby Hurley has a serious, long-standing problem with his team's offenses. Effective field goal percentage, national ranking by year via Ken Palm. This past season's team ranked 284th. 2023 was 288th. 2022, 294th. 2021, 206th. 2020, 209th. 2020, weird year. We can drop that one. 2021.
But also probably his best team.
The best players that they were able to bring in for sure.
Are you talking about the 2020-21 season or 2019-20?
I think when he says 20, it's referring to 20 was the ending of that season. So cutoff at the Pac-12 tournament.
That was a very
because
good
he put 2024 for this season, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And Cartman goes on to point out that when Bobby Hurley was at Buffalo, he was working with Nate Oates. And if we know Nate Oates' track record, he seems to have done pretty well for himself now coaching an Alabama team that is a top 25 team, a really good team in the SEC, kind of rebuilt themselves as now they have a football powerhouse and a basketball powerhouse.
Mitch, we went to one of his press conferences this year.
Yes, we did. Now, this isn't to say that, Bobby's only good for one thing. As we've talked about, he's one of the best college point guards in history. In history. If he stays, which is very plausible that he just stays and tries to rebuild another year, he needs a better offensive assistant, or he needs an actual offensive assistant. And he needs someone to design plays and have someone run those sets. And if it means using all 30 seconds of the shot clock, or if it's using half of the time of the shot clock and they run like a Phoenix Suns 7 seconds or less offense, like something that identifies what they are offensively. We know what they are defensively, right? Bobby Hurley has been very good at establishing themselves defensively. Offensively, I just read you the numbers. It's not there, and it's getting worse year by year.
Bobby can recruit, and he can coach some defense. I would be perfectly fine with him staying around here if he hires an offensive assistant to run the offense, basically an offensive coordinator, and he, gives up the running of any sort of offense. I think that would be a really good decision all around because, again, great recruiter and really good defensive coach.
Is this the Cliff Kingsbury issue that we saw where it seemed like, he was coming in as an offensive coach and then he really couldn't call the correct plays for his offense, it seemed like at times?
The difference that I look at it with that particular example, and I know you're trying to generalize it in terms of what he's known for and what he came into.
I'm trying to generalize it so that Arizona sports fans can understand.
Cliff went from being a mediocre college head coach to a NFL also mediocre head coach. Everything that has been applauded about Cliff Kingsbury is the way he can design offenses. But we as Arizona sports fans haven't necessarily seen the fruits of that supposed labor.
We just got to execute.
Exactly. Maybe it'll be seen in Washington with your Commanders, Jesse. Maybe. I think the difference with Bobby, though, is that he went from one head coaching job to another.
We've got a good group.
He went from being the head coach of a Buffalo team that was pretty darn successful up there in the East to an Arizona State team that was looking to get out of mediocrity. And credit to Herb Sendek because he had James Harden, of course. But they were never really able to get over to that hump or get over that hump and get to a point where they can say year after year, ASU is an established threat in this conference. And they were hoping, they would hope that Bobby was going to do that for them. That hasn't been the case.
You got any more Cliffisms?
Minor thing. That was my favorite one.
I mean, he would just do.
I thought he had a good voice for radio. He's going to be good as an analyst.
I liked his.
I don't think he's going to be good as an analyst.
I liked his big lion head portrait at the front of his house.
Very sad, empty house.
That was peak Cliff Kingsbury being
totally.
cool here in Arizona.
Totally.
I found it to be sad. Yeah, he was just like living in this big empty house because he's like, yeah, this business is tough.
I'm a Gemini.
Make your bed, dude. Come on.
Moving back to Bobby Hurley, I think we can see that he can recruit, as you said, Jesse. But can we get more out of him as a delegator? And I'm hoping that the answer is yes, and that he can stay around here for a while. But if it's not, they can move on and find the next coach to carry ASU through the next however long they stay here. But
I also think Bobby might be a little bit exhausted. I get that vibe from him.
He doesn't really have an athletic director right now.
Yeah, and it might just be good for Bobby as just like for his mental health to go and maybe help out his brother at UConn for a season.
But the problem is he would have to pay $2 million to do it, as we found out this week, boys.
Yeah, it turns out that he hasn't signed that contract yet. There was a report from USA Today and then additional reporting from our guy Chris Cartman at Sun Devil Source that Bobby has yet to sign the contract that was agreed to a year ago. They did, I believe it was, he signed the term sheet, right?
Holy cow, Aaron Donald is retiring. Sorry.
That doesn't, I mean...
Has nothing to do with our podcast, but
that doesn't surprise me.
That's a big deal.
Moving back to to ASU. Continue, Mitch.
The point being is that we're talking about the idea of, is Bobby going to be kept on? Is Bobby going to move on to something else? Well, this is kind of the caveat that would get him out of that, right? Is the fact that he's agreed to the terms necessarily for this new deal, but he hasn't actually signed the contract yet. So if new athletic director X, because we don't actually have one yet, decides that Bobby Hurley is not the person that they want to move on with, well, guess what? Just you got a little buyout that you can take care of there, and he's not even contracted anymore. But they don't have an athletic director right now, and I'd be hard-pressed to believe that they're going to go to an Arizona Board of Regents meeting and just decide that, yeah, we don't want to move forward with this. There was also reporting that there's a lot of Pac-12-related incentive language in there that obviously needs to be adjusted now. That can't be the big holdup in all this. I can't believe that to be, but
you just have to control F.
Yep.
And change Pac-12 to Big 12, guys. It's okay.
Shouldn't be that hard.
Pacific 12 Conference or whatever the legal language probably says. But yeah, it's interesting that hasn't been signed yet. There are reports that Kenny Dillingham also hasn't signed his amended contract as well, which would give him an extra year extension. Because
I guess they also have to control F his contract, right?
Because of the postseason ban. So we'll see. I don't know what's going on. It seems like there's a lot on hold right now because of the athletic department.
So, guys, Aaron Donald for athletic director?
It seems like he's looking for a new job, as Jesse pointed out.
He's an all-time great.
Yeah. So now everyone knows
a lot about football.
Now everyone knows when we recorded this podcast. So thank you, Jesse.
Yeah, we aren't gonna we were gonna put it out later today, right? I mean, I didn't think we were gonna waste time here.
So, is that all you guys had on the athletic department and ASU future of the?
I think we've said what we've needed to say.
Yeah.
The baseball program has been very disappointing so far this season. It's now year 3 of the Willie Bloomquist era, and I thought they would take a bigger step this year. So far, I've been disappointed in that. It seems like the same inconsistent team, same inconsistent pitching. It's a storied program. They should be one of the best in the country. They should be a perennial top 25 team. I don't know what's going on there, but that needs to be addressed in addition to football, men's basketball, women's basketball.
Yeah, Mitch and I were talking about this the other day, and I think the biggest issue is they just have such young players right now. Their pitching staff is super young. I don't think they have a starting pitcher over the age of 19 years old. Like at this point, that
doesn't matter to me.
It matters to me because they need experience.
Not really.
It's tough
in baseball. The best players leave at 21.
Okay, well, also at the same time, one of their better hitters has been dealing with an injury. New Contradas is still dealing with a back injury, as far as I'm aware. Missed quite a few games to start off this season. They really need his bat in the middle of the order. He's one of the better hitters on this team.
They should have incredible depth. They're ASU baseball. Barry Bonds, Dustin Pedroia, Andre Ethier, Rick Monday.
Okay,
the list goes on.
We can do this for
Paul Loduca.
We could do this for every athletic program at Arizona State and argue
really.
why
Marlon's great. Paul
Not
Loduca.
really. This is the program that you can literally just go like.
Look at
Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. They have multiple Hall of Fame players on this team. If Dustin Pedroia hadn't gotten hurt, he would have been another one.
Put the rings on the table like Pat Riley does. That just like, hey, this is what we got. We got a strong history here at Arizona State. If you want to be a part of it, that's great.
It's been a minute since they've been in the College World Series, though.
It's fine.
Be
the next one.
Just like trot Barry Bonds out there and have him recruit.
They did. He was taking pictures yesterday.
Do it again. Do it all the time.
Do you think people want to be associated with Barry Bonds?
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know.
He's so far removed from all that controversy, I would think.
Yeah,
right?
but he's also so far removed from the game. And the last time he was a part of the game, he was a terrible hitting coach. So,
but you just need him to shake hands and take pictures.
maybe.
Presidential candidate Barry Bonds
And say,
style?
I have-
Shake
No,
hands, take
but
pictures.
Say I have 762
babies.
Athletic director
home runs.
Barry
No,
Bonds.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. After what we have seen and regarding, breaking and bending of rules.
How do you know? Wait, hold on. Allegedly, Barry Bonds broke rules.
I mean, come on.
He went to court. Let's be real.
Look at him in 1993 and then look at him in 2001. Also, you don't just happen to hit 73 home runs when you're 38.
What? That's weird. I don't know. Yeah, so we'll see what the baseball team can continue to, if they can turn this around. So far, does not look good this season. Pro Day. ASU Pro Day the other day.
Shout out to the guys that were participating. I heard Brady White, who's now going to be an assistant for ASU, he was the only quarterback around, so he was the one throwing all the passes.
Great.
For the
Good
Pro
for him.
Day. That was fun.
Maybe he'll get picked up. He's not that old, and he was a really, really good quarterback at Memphis.
Memphis quarterback.
I thought he would be like a backup for years in the NFL. I don't know what happened.
Wasn't he
there.
last in one of the spring leagues?
I think
right?
so, yeah.
If I recall
He was
correctly.
a USFL or XFL guy. Now they're together in the UFL. Shout out the UFL.
Shout out friend of the show, Ro Torrance, who also was at the Combine, but he had his Pro Day yesterday. Did pretty well on bench press. Didn't do very well on in terms of vertical jump, which I thought he would be fantastic at.
32 and a half inches for those wondering at home.
Right, which for corners, that's well below average.
Yeah.
But Jesse, you brought up the point to me that he's tall, so he might not
He's got really long arms.
he might not need the verticality.
Yeah, I think he'll be fine.
I'm excited to see, if you look at the NFL draft profile on NFL.com, it says that he will be a special teamer or a backup.
Okay, just Chase Lucas.
I hope that Ro Torrance can make his way into the NFL because I think he has the opportunity to be able to compete for a position on a starting defense.
I could also see a few other guys from
Deshaun Mallory.
Yeah.
He's been getting a lot of press lately. Some people have been pointing out that he is someone that teams may be drafting in the first 2 days, possibly. Not the first day, but second or third day.
Day 2 or day 3.
Yeah.
And maybe you could see the same out of Joey Ramos. Like, teams love to grab gritty, tough offensive linemen that are big in the trenches. And, maybe he can serve as a serviceable backup or depth on a contending team that has a later pick.
Jesse, any other thoughts on the Combine and on the Pro Day as well?
On the whatchamacallit.
on the
baby.
whatchamacallit. No, I mean, I think you'll see a couple of ASU guys get, signed as undrafted free agents or drafted. I think, that's what we've become accustomed to. And, yeah, as I said, I'm not really worried about Ro's verticality. He's got such long arms, he's got such length that he makes up for that. And I honestly could see him being better than just a special teamer personally and a backup.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You've seen Richard Sherman is a similar built player, and he was a later round pick who probably wasn't seen as a great player, coming out of Stanford. And he became, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. So
Jim Harbaugh screwed him over.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He did. But, of course, next year is going to be, I think, a big year for ASU players to get drafted. I think Elijah Badger is going to be a day 1 pick.
wow,
I do.
first rounder.
I do.
Next, Brandon Ayuk, you could say, maybe.
I think he's special.
BA.
Who, speaking of, do some big money potentially this offseason, if not next offseason. Ayuk, go get that bag, son, wherever it may be.
Yeah.
We'd love to see it.
And then, of course, don't forget about former Sun Devil Jaden Daniels, going to be a top 10 pick probably.
Come on.
Top
Be realistic.
2 pick.
Yeah.
No, top 3. You think he's going 2 instead of Drake May?
I think.
Let's ask the Commanders fan. Where's Jaden Daniels going to be picked?
You think he's going to be a Commander?
I think he's going to be a Commander.
You really don't think that they're going to take Drake May?
I don't. Because they tried the UNC QB thing, it didn't work out.
Do you think it's because of the school?
Yeah,
that school's getting a bad rap at the National Football League level when it comes to quarterbacks, man.
Hey, you don't think it's because of the player?
And I also just think that
no one would take an Ohio State quarterback ever again if that were the case.
I think that no, not anymore. Not after.
Yeah, I think everybody's jumping at Kyle McCord when he ever becomes eligible.
Not after you've
Syracuse now.
seen what 1.5. They've had 1.5 decent quarterbacks in the NFL. So Fields is okay, and then you've got C.J. Stroud, who looks like he's a future all-time great.
Future all-time great, really?
Yeah,
you could say that after 1 year. Okay.
But no, yeah. I mean, I think Jaden's more dynamic. So
I'm excited. I mean, I would love that for you, Jesse.
I wouldn't. As has
the
been,
Cliff connection. I'm sure he's met Cliff before.
Yeah, sure. But they
shook hands in a hallway once.
Here's the thing about Jaden. He takes a lot of massive hits, and he's like 6'3". Don't look at what he's listed as.
Isn't it 205 or something?
That's not true. He's like 185 pounds soaking wet. So he might have been able to absorb those hits in even the SEC, but in the NFL, when
210
guys like Aaron Donald, yeah, he's not 210. That's ridiculous. When guys like Aaron Donald are coming at you, he just retired, but when guys like that are coming at you, Jadeveon Clowney, I'm not excited about that. So
Jadeveon Clowney, possibly a Panther.
Yeah, and the Commanders play the Panthers a good amount, so. Players like that, I'm not excited to have Jaden Daniels face.
Listen, if it doesn't work out next year, you'll have another top 10 pick, Jesse.
Lovely. I had so many top 10 picks in my life.
That's it for draft talk, of course, and then we will say that we are saddened that Gene Boyd will be retiring, but good for him. Going out on a good
on his own terms.
Yeah, on his own terms.
Stepping away to spend more time with his family. He's not officially going to retire until the end of the school year. So around
he's the
May,
associate athletic director, by the way.
For those that were unaware.
For those that are unaware.
So obviously he's not going to be in consideration for the new AD position. But I've had sparing conversations with Gene. He's also a Sun Devil for life.
Gene.
He's also got a fantastic story about a Territorial Cup instance that
call me captain.
Our good buddy Jeff Munn loves to tell every single time. But Gene is a great guy, talking from person to person, and I know he was close with Ray Anderson in trying to help develop and bring back up this program. So salute to Gene, because they're gonna miss him up there.
You got to creep.
What do you mean?
You never seen the other guys?
I have, but I it's not embedded in my brain. Like,
come on, it's one of the best movies of all time.
I mean, it's I don't even know if it's a top 5.
You ever done a desk pop before?
Yeah, it's no. So
me yelling.
Gene is the name of the captain, and the other guys.
Okay,
so when Will Ferrell's character goes in there, he calls him Gene, and he said, "Call me captain. Don't call me Gene." So there you go. Like, that's what I was saying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, my Gene was Tony Romo and Jim Nance are always yelling for Gene's territory to.
It's like Todd. It's like when Mel Kiper used to yell for Todd McShay.
Yeah, they're always just like, Gene, explain this.
No, but congratulations to him, and happy retirement. Good luck.
Yeah,
and have a good time. I wish I was retired.
You're younger than me, bro. Relax.
Say that on this.
No, I'm saying, like, I wish I.
We're not cutting that out, by the way.
No, I wish I had the means to retire at some point in my life.
Yeah, backtracking.
You should have phrased it that way the first time.
He's moving the goalposts.
Yeah.
Our boss listens to this, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. So, plans moving forward. In terms of what we're going to do, we're going to be a little sporadic when it comes to recording the podcast. Obviously, we will come on when and if ASU ever hires an athletic director.
Do some spring football stuff as well.
Yes, of course. That is coming up in the month of April. And, as things happen, we'll keep you updated and make sure that, We get our thoughts on camera because that's what we're here for, just to spit into a microphone for a while and feel good about ourselves because we said what we needed to say.
If a turnaround happens with ASU baseball, of course, the conference tournament, the second and final Pac-12 tournament, is going to be at Scottsdale Stadium in Scottsdale. So maybe that's something that we can check out and if ASU starts to improve as the season goes on.
And then, of course, the Final Four is here. We're hoping to be out there and do some content for you guys. So
fingers crossed.
Hopefully we'll
fingers crossed.
Hopefully we'll be able to do that. Get some stuff out there. See if see who can make a run. I hope Arizona doesn't, but if they do, we'll be there.
We all hope Arizona doesn't.
Not Kevin Zimmerman, Kellen Olson,
Cats
Sarah
talk.
Gazelle, Jarrett Carlin. There's a lot of people here that are big U of A people.
Speaking of Kevin Zimmerman, please check out his article on ArizonaSports.com.
Great column.
He wrote a
Great column
about just what ASU is doing right now. He's just confused about what's going on with the athletic department. So please go check that out on ArizonaSports.com. If you go to the teams tab, all you have to do is click on Sun Devils, and it will be there. That's going to do it for this edition of State of the Sun Devils. Thank you so much for listening. You can follow us on all forms of social media, including Threads.
We have Threads.
At AZ Sports Devils is where you can find us. You can find every single episode, almost every single episode, on the Arizona Sports YouTube channel. It's on ArizonaSports.com as well. You can click on the video tab. It will be right there. For Jesse Morrison and Mitch Ferreldis, my good friends. I'm Jeremy Schnell.
Good.
We'll talk to you next time.
Ooh, looks like a bid stealer in the MAC women's basketball tournament.